We are living in the greatest moment in human history. We are on the greatest time in the history of the human race. And you know what? If you spend time on social media or watching or reading the news, you would think it was the worst. You would think that this is the worst time ever. And in a moment, I'm going to prove it to you that this is the best time that anyone has ever lived. By the end of today's show, you're going to have a big smile on your face. Plus, you're going to have the tools to turn a negative morning into a positive day quickly. Ed Talks Live is next. Hey, what's up, party people? I've got so much to share with you. It just comes out like that. I say, hey, what's up, party people? My name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. Today's show, we're talking about mental hacks to stay positive in negative times. And I just got to tell you, I'm going to just roll into it. In a moment, I'm going to say hello to you in chat. So jump in there on the right-hand side if you're on YouTube, down below if you're on Facebook or on Twitter, and say hello. Tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do. Even if you're a long-time listener, say hello and introduce yourself to the crowd. Now, I just want to look you in the eye and tell you that we're in the greatest time ever. I mean, it's amazing what we have available to us. In fact, most of what we take for granted on a day-by-day basis, only 100 years ago would have been considered sorcery. I mean, let me give you a couple of examples. In my office today, I have a portable air conditioner. It's a Sharp portable air conditioner. It's actually sitting right over there, connected to the window, and somehow it's taking warm air from my office and turning it into cold air and then pushing warm air out. Now, I control that machine over there with this thing right here. Now, I don't even know how it works. I mean, I push the button and the thing gets colder. That is amazing. I want you to think about that for a second. We have machines that make the air colder. We have machines that make the air fresher. We have machines that can make the air warmer. I mean, are you kidding me? 200 years ago, you know what they used to do? They'd open up the fans. 200 years ago, you know, if you were a king in Europe, you had people fanning you. You know, you didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have buttons that they could push for just a few $100s that you could cool an entire room. We live in the greatest time in human history. I want you to take a look at this device right here. Most of you have one of these. In fact, I'm pretty sure all of you have one of these. This is a phone. This thing is connected to satellites, okay? This piece of gear right here, if you were to go back, I don't know, maybe just 30 years. If you were to go back 30 years, the processing power inside of this piece of gear would have taken up about 4 rooms, and it wouldn't even got close to the power that you were able to have on this thing. You could pick this thing up and push someone's name. You don't even need to know their phone number. Remember in the old days? Well, remember some of us. I mean, remember in the old days, you actually talked to somebody who took a cord and connected the cord so that you could talk to the person, you know, like 3 blocks down. Now, you don't even need their number. You press their name, and somehow this thing connects to the satellite, it connects to the other satellite, and instantly finds that person. I was talking to my mom 2 days ago on the phone. My mom is in Pennsylvania right now. That's like 3,000 miles away, and we're talking clear as bell. And if we wanted to, we could press FaceTime. She could sit there and talk to my grandkids. We are living in the greatest days of human history. Let's talk about travel. So I recently got on an airplane. It was a 2-hour flight. I think I was going from Denver to San Diego. And on the way from Denver to San Diego, I was sitting in seat 2D. That's the second row in first class over on the window. And the guy who was sitting in 1C, which is the aisle seat, same side of the airplane, but across from me, window, aisle, next row up. The guy walked on the airplane, and I kid you not, the first thing I heard him say was, well, what the hell am I supposed to do for 2 hours? So I'm like, I didn't even know what the conversation was all about. He started with, what the hell am I supposed to do for 2 hours? And I realized that he walked into the airplane And the wonderful flight attendant who was standing up there doing a great job, she just said, just so you know, the Wi-Fi. she said, she said, just so you know, it's just ridiculous. Just so you know, the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi is down. Okay? Now, I want you to put this into context. We're about to sit in a chair at 36,000 feet, going about 500 miles an hour. Okay? 500 miles an hour. Remember, a couple hundred years ago, people used to ride across from Denver to San Diego on a horse that was powered by 1 horsepower and sometimes 2 horsepower, and they kind of went about, I don't know, like 3 to 4 miles an hour. They'd hit a rock, they'd break their wooden tire, and then they would have to go find a blacksmith, which we don't even have anymore. They have to go find a blacksmith to fix their wooden tire so that they could go at 3 to 4 miles an hour back across the middle of the desert, okay? So now we fly at 500 miles an hour. From Denver to San Diego, the airplane takes off, flies right over the mountains. Used to take the old settlers like a year just to get over the Rocky Mountains, right over the mountains. Couple little bumps, boom, 10,000 feet. They start serving you drinks, free alcohol in first class. And homeboy's like, what the hell am I going to do for 2 hours? Because the wireless connection to his computer was not going to be able to work for 2 hours, okay? We live in the most amazing time ever. And by the way, in a moment, I'm going to say hello to you in chat. Those of you who just joined us, this is mental hacks to stay positive in negative times. I just sort of went on this rant. I'm gonna get into the strategies in just a second. By the time you leave, I'm going to give you 10 ways in 30 seconds or less to totally change your approach to life. And here's why this is so important. And I mean this. What you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. And by the way, every once in a while somebody asks me, usually a man, this usually does not work with parts of the body, okay? All I'm saying is what you focus on generally grows. So, if you're thinking about all of the sickness in the world right now, there's a really good chance you're going to get sick. If you're thinking about, man, I hope I don't go bankrupt. Man, I hope I don't go bankrupt. You're probably going to go bankrupt. If you sit around and think, man, I hope I don't destroy my relationships. I hope I don't destroy my relationship. You're probably going to destroy your relationships because the subconscious mind works like a missile going towards a target. Okay, if you give your subconscious mind a target to hit, your subconscious is going to find a way to do that. Now, the interesting thing about the way the subconscious mind works is it doesn't understand negatives. Here's what I mean by that. If you say, I hope I don't screw up my relationship, you know what your subconscious did? Your subconscious has to imagine the picture of the thing you don't want. And that thing you don't want is a screwed up relationship. Gosh, I hope I don't get sick. Your subconscious pictures you as sick, and all of a sudden, your entire trajectory of your body and your mind is headed towards the thing you don't want. What you focus on grows. Now, we live in a culture, and I'm speaking specifically here in the United States. I'm recording this in the middle of September of 2020. Tough year, right? Tough year, and we're in the middle of an election cycle. And we're in the middle of an election cycle that is easily one of the most vicious election cycles ever. By the way, facts are completely out the window. It doesn't even matter if somebody said something. If somebody thought somebody might have thought about saying something, they basically said it. And either side is interested in the actual facts of anything. Everybody's talking over each other. Everyone's talking at each other right now. And so what's happening, and I'm just going to be very transparent about this. There are people in control of the world. Let's call them the global elite. They include the people in political power and also a lot of the people who want political power. This includes the news media and some of the biggest and most influential donors in the world. Now, let me tell you a little secret from understanding the political world, because I know some of the biggest movers and shakers, biggest names in that world, okay? Let me tell you a little secret. Nobody does anything when things are just okay. And very few people donate to political causes when things are great. So if somebody has the answer to everything, taxes are low, freedoms are high, life is good, people don't usually donate to political campaigns when that's the case. Normally they donate to political campaigns when they're angry, when they're bitter, when they're frustrated, or when they're upset. So let me ask you a question. If you're a political consultant, or you're in the news media, or you work in influencing global trends and you're trying to raise awareness and money for those global trends, and you know nobody really does anything when they're just okay or when they're happy, but man, people really do engage and give a lot of money and really get onto their social media when they're angry and they're bitter and they're upset. You're actually incentivized. If you're over here, those folks over there, they're actually incentivized to make you angry, to make you upset, to make you frustrated, and to make you bitter. So let me give you an example. And I just picked this, by the way. If you're like a big CNN fan, don't think that. I honestly, I could have picked any. I could have picked anyone. Let me pull this up real quick. I've got. Here we go. Let me share my screen. I literally didn't. I just picked this day. Okay, so let's take this right here. I want to show you some of the headlines. Check it out. World Health Organization warns of alarming rates of transmission. All right. Caitlin Collins fires back at McEnany over Trump's mask claim. Okay. GOP grows more indifferent to Trump as drama as election. Trump has done one thing really well as president. How much do you want to bet this is not a good thing? Check it out. Ready? Watch this. I'm just going to click on this link. Okay. Okay. So here it is. This is an article. All these ads are loading. All these articles. The point. We've never been in this place before in this modern presidency. In the post-World War world, it's yet another line Trump is crossed but not obliterated. Honestly, and you look. I pick CNN. If you're like a big CNN fan, don't send me an angry letter. You could do it on the other side too. My point is that the political elite and the global elite make more money when you're angry. But you know what? It's pretty amazing right now. Life is pretty darn good. And when you start to think about that, your life's going to change. I'm telling you, when you start to change your mentality, you change your physicality. And when you do that, first of all, you're going to make more money. Second, you're going to attract more abundance-minded people. And third, you're going to be able to change the world like you really want to. Okay? So for those of you who just joined us, and we had a whole bunch of people who just did, my name's Ed Rush. This is Mental Hacks to Stay Positive in Negative Times. And we just lost like 3 people right there. I just saw it right when I went to CNN. They're like, but I love CNN. All right, look, I don't really watch or read the news, so I can make fun of Fox and CNN and I'll make fun of everybody. All right, you know as well as I do, they're not telling you the truth. All right, so stop paying attention to them. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to jump into chat real quick, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a scientific study to prove the point that I'm making, and then I'm going to jump up on the whiteboard. I'm going to share with you some of my best strategies for staying mentally positive. And just so you know, oh man, we're gonna have fun today. All right, so I have to go back into chat because I got onto my rant, and here we are. So Mike says, "What's up, Mike?" Mike was on like an hour before. Hello, Dr. Wendy Lee. Thank you for your awesome comment on Facebook. By the way, I put this comment on Facebook. I put this post on Facebook yesterday. The biggest lie being peddled on social media is that things are bad. They're not. Things are good. Pass it on, because they are. Okay, you know that as well as I do. What's up, Wendell Bugs? Good to see you, Rob Jones. Yeah, times are good. Yeah, times are especially good if you're in the information business. All right. Hrisha, what's going on? Times are good for her too. Gina, what's going on? Good to see you as well. The fact that any of us are even alive, you know how long it took for us to get to this moment. So I was thinking about this because I read a lot of history books from the 1700s, 18th century, the founding of our country. And if you wanted to have 4 kids, you had to have 7. I mean, you were guaranteed at least 1 out of every 4 of your kids in that era was going to die in his or her first year. It was just the way that it was. Can you imagine a world like that? I have 4 kids, man. I have 4 healthy kids. I can't imagine what it would be like to have guaranteed that one of them was going to die in the first year of their life. It's amazing. What's going on? Anita, good to see you as well. Roll Tide. May the force be with you. What's up, Dennis? Good to see you as well. Off many people vote. You got that right. You got that right. By the way, this election, it's the same thing. It's more of an election of who somebody doesn't want than what they do want. Thanks, Paul. Inflammatory news. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. Very good. Above ground and breathing is a great day. Celine turned 70. You can't be vibrant into 70 and be all negative about things. Celine knows what's up. All right. So I'm going to show you a graph, and I will tell you this is from one of my favorite books in the world. Now, if you're, this is not like it's not like romance novel easy read kind of stuff. This is a book called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And in fact, Lisa, if you can throw a link from Amazon, I didn't plan this coming in here. This book called Power versus Force, David Hawkins. David Hawkins passed away several years ago. One of my clients actually was one of his students, lived with him for about 5 years. Truly an amazing communicator and incredible individual. Now, David Hawkins in Power versus Force did roughly 10 years of scientific studies. And the science was on the strength or the weakness of the human body when given certain substances to hold on to or given certain thoughts to hold on to. And what he discovered on a logarithmic scale of essentially 0 up to over 700 is, if you look at this little graph right here, what he discovered is that if you are operating, for example, on the bottom on the left, you can see shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, and courage. So what he discovered was all the way up to 200, which is where you cross over from pride to courage. You're actually weak. Okay, you can see in the middle, it says getting by and suffering, all the way down to the bottom. Now, when you move up to courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment, when you move up that scale, you actually get physically stronger. Okay? So, let me kind of dive into this just for a second. One of the things that I've been blessed to do over say the last 5 years, even especially at my business events, and some of you have seen me do this, is I've had an opportunity to pray and help people get some physical healing in their body. Now, if you're brand new to me and you're like, I don't even know what that is, it's fine. It's okay to be skeptical, so was I, okay? But I've had the opportunity to be able to just help people a little bit and to see some physical breakthrough, and in certain cases, some emotional breakthrough, and a lot of times some financial breakthrough based on helping people and praying for things. And I will tell you that not all the time, but about 98% of the time, the root in some sort of physical problem started right here. So for example, if somebody's got gut issues, colon problem, something like that, it's not 100%, but there's a pretty good chance that they've got some sort of anger or unresolved emotion that they've jammed down in here, and their body is literally just taking that out on them. If you have somebody with a back problem or a neck problem, it's not 100%, by the way, but the chances are, based on my experience, having done this hundreds of times, chances are that somebody is carrying too much emotionally. Just frankly, too much business baggage, emotional baggage, relational baggage, and that tends to reflect itself on the human body, okay? So in David Hawkins' chart, when you move up towards the top, you get stronger. When you move down towards the bottom, you get weaker. So now let me ask you a question. When do you think a nation or a world is most susceptible to a contagious virus? Is it when collectively their immune systems are super strong, or is it collectively when their immune systems are weak? Now, just so you know, because this is going to get misquoted, right? I'm not saying the reason that we got hit with COVID is because our emotional immune systems are weak, but I am saying there's no question that it's a contributing factor. Because for about the last 15 or 20 years, thanks to media, we've been devolving as a nation from things like willingness, courage, pride, down to anger, fear, grief, apathy, and guilt. And as we operate down there as a culture, we literally get weaker as a culture, okay? So in a moment, I'm gonna be sharing with you, again, I'm gonna be sharing with you my hacks to be able to do this, but I just wanna let you know, first of all, things are amazing. Like if you just think about that long enough, if you spend 5 minutes a day just thinking about something that's amazing or that you're thankful for, I mean, I want you to think about this. We haven't started or even participated in a war for the last 4 or 5 years. That's amazing. I mean, you have to go back into like the 30s before that was the case over a 5-year period of time. As a country, we just helped broker. We didn't do it. We weren't the ones that did it. We just helped broker one of the greatest agreements in the Middle East right now to bring peace to some countries that are at war. In the 60s, we brokered one between Egypt and Israel, who were fighting each other for a really long time and killing a lot of people, and that still stands to this day. Believe it or not, the world is actually becoming a more peaceful place. I know it doesn't seem like it. I know it doesn't seem like it. We have abundance in almost everything. But we have air that gives us oxygen. We have trees that filter out that air. And I know as soon as I say that, somebody's like, yeah, but we're getting rid of all the trees. You know what? We're actually going in the opposite direction right now. We've got enough people who are now environmentally savvy that we're creating more filtering trees, planting more filtering trees than isn't that great to think about? People are like, man, we're running out of water, except for the fact that there's water basically everywhere, right? People are like, man, the whole place is burning down. It's like, yeah, but you know what? I have an air filter right here, and that's pretty amazing, okay? I mean, think about this. Pandemics used to wipe out like a third of the population. And I know we've had a lot of people that passed away from this thing, but not a third. A third of our population would be over 100 million people. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine 1 out of every 3 people that you know dying from a virus? We live in an amazing world, okay? Now, I bet you're feeling better. I mean, think about it. I've been at this now for a little over 20 minutes on this show, and I'll bet you're feeling better. I bet you're like, you know what? I was kind of in a down mood today when I showed up on the show, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more upbeat. I'm actually starting to feel a little bit better. And I'm telling you, if you're not feeling better so far, it's because some of the one thing I said, you were like, can't believe he used CNN. I love CNN. Or you were like, I hate Donald Trump. Or like, I can't believe it. We should have been at war or whatever. I don't know. Okay? So if you're not feeling good, change the way you're thinking. All right, back to chat real quick. And then I'm going to jump up on the whiteboard. Oh, man. I'm like completely off my notes as usual. It is a great scale, by the way. It's so true. And you think about it when you're feeling weak. Like, do you ever have one of those days where you're just like, oh, man, some of the time you're feeling weak, you start to delve into it. It's because maybe you're afraid of something. Maybe you're feeling apathetic. You ever felt like that before? And I'm going to give you the tools to be able to do that. Thank you for that. We do some praying at my events, man. And you know the funny thing about it? Nobody gets offended. If you do it well and you're not really pushy and stuff about it, nobody gets offended. Vader approves of that t-shirt. Dang right. Very, very good. I haven't participated in a war. There we go. See, you had to find the other part about it. I'm just saying. Look, let me just put it this way. We have less troops in the Middle East, American troops in the Middle East, than we did since before the 60s. We have less troops overseas than we did before the 60s. How about those two stats? Look them up. All right. So Lee, Israel and Egypt were absolutely at war in the 60s. Dead people in the street. All right. Thank you. There we go. Good. Oh, so I see people complain about social media feeds being negative. So this is so interesting too. This morning, I was trying to update my profile on Instagram because I put a post out that says link in profile, but then that couldn't change the link. And Instagram has some sort of bug right now where I can't change my link in my profile. And I'm like, dang it, tell them Instagram. And then I remembered I'm not even paying them. I mean, like, it's free. That's an amazing. I mean, like 20 years ago, you would have paid $200 a month for something like that. And it's free, and you're like, stupid Instagram. Like, you ever heard somebody's like, stupid Facebook? It's free. They're like letting you use their thing for free, okay? 69th birthday, my man. Congratulations. All right. All right, so focus on the positive. Things are good. I'm just saying. If you think about all the bad things, all the bad things are going to show up. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11 things that I'm going to share with you, and in no particular order, by the way. But basically, what these are what? Wait a second, hold on. Barry's, you're 69, and his daughter is 10. See, now I thought, so Barry, I'm 47, and my daughter's 2, and somebody said, man, somebody looked at me and said, aren't you a little old? Aren't you a little old to have kids? And I said, the president's like 74 and he has a 13-year-old. And they literally went, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So just per matter of perspective, man. Abraham from the Bible had 7 more kids after he was 100. Don't read into that. All right, so grandkids, man. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna jump up on the whiteboard and I'm gonna go through my 12 hacks. And when you get done with these, you're gonna have a way to start your day or middle of your day or sometime during the day to change your mindset and to change your focus on something. All right, so let me just play the bumper real quick. I'll show up on the board. Boom, boom. All right, so. Oh, don't even quote me on that. Oh man, no. That's all I have to say about that. All right, if you didn't see that, she said, are you planning on having more kids? That's not a topic for today. All right, so let's talk about some of the tools that you can use to change the way that you think. Now, let me just tell you a couple things about your mind, the way that the mind works. The first thing is you are in charge of everything that happens in your mind. You're like, wait a second, Ed, what about my dreams? Yes, your dreams. If you're having some weird dreams, it's because you're thinking about some weird stuff, okay? If you're having some very powerful, motivating dreams, it's because you're thinking about powerful and motivating stuff, okay? Your dream garden is nothing more than what you plant, the seeds that you planted inside of it. Well, people are like, wait a second, Ed, like all of a sudden, I'll be walking down the street and all of a sudden I'll feel like anxious. Why does that happen? Well, the reason that you feel anxious is because there's something inside of your head that you decided to grab onto to make you feel anxious. Now, my goal in life is to find 100% mastery over the thoughts that go through my mind. Full transparency, I haven't achieved that goal yet, but you know what? I'm heading in that direction. And the first step of that is to take total responsibility over every single thought that goes through your mind. Now, you're thinking again, you ever do this? Do you ever do this where you just get that reflection out of the way? Do you ever do this where you're just sitting down to maybe like journal or meditate and all of a sudden you're like, I forgot to send that email to Bob. Well, that thought popped up, but that came out of your subconscious mind because you put it there before. And so the first thing is just to take responsibility for your thoughts. That doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean that you can figure it out really quickly, but as long as you know that the thoughts that you have and the emotions that you feel are there because you put them there or because you allowed them. So you're gonna hear somebody every once in a while who will say something like this. They'll say, that person really made me mad. And I usually tell, like, for example, if my kids say that, I usually tell my kids, say it again, and then they say this. Check it out, ready for this? They say, I chose to be angry at that person. Did you see the difference between that? That person really made me mad. Well, they didn't make you anything. Nobody made you become mad at somebody. You chose to become mad. So I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I was saying, you know what I really want to do? I want to be able to deal with criticism really, really well. And there's always 3 steps. By the way, there's always 3 steps towards emotional maturity. Now, most of the world believes there are 2 steps towards emotional maturity. Let me explain what I mean. Let's use driving as an example, okay? So you're driving down the road and you're like listening to your radio and everything's going great, and then some jerk cuts you off in traffic. And if you're like a normal American, man, you honk your horn, you start giving them the number 1 signal with that middle finger. You're like, now tell this person, you maybe drive up, make sure that they know you're really upset, okay? That's There you go. That's the low stage. That's the lowest stage of emotional maturity. Somebody cuts you off and you freak out. Now, the next stage of emotional maturity goes like this. You ready for this? That jerk cuts you off. And you're like, man, I want to honk my horn right now. I'd really like to stick my finger out the window. But you know what? I'm maturing as a person, so I'm going to let that go. Okay, now most people believe that that second one right there is the final step. You want to do it, but you don't. You know? You want to just give in to whatever it is, but you don't. Here's true emotional maturity. Check it out. Jerk still cuts you off. You didn't even think about it. It doesn't even cross your mind. In fact, maybe the first thought that crosses your mind when jerk cuts you off is, man, I hope he's having an okay day. Maybe he's on his way to the hospital. And you know what I'm going to do real quick? I'm just going to pray for that man because whatever he's hurrying to is probably important and he's probably not feeling great today. So, Father, I just pray that you would just bless him. Like, imagine what it would be like if that was your first reaction. I mean, what would it be like if you didn't have to fight through the anger, you just immediately went to love and compassion, okay? And so training your mind towards positivity begins with training towards that as the destination. So when I was talking to my friend yesterday, I said, you know, I would love to be immune to criticism on stage 3, because right now, full transparency, I'm immune to criticism on stage 2. I still, like, if somebody writes me some negative, like, Amazon review, which still happens for crying out loud, okay, I'm like, son of a, and then eventually I'm like, it's okay, but like I still have to like get myself over it. And I said, you know what I want to do? I want to be able to respond in one of two ways. When I get criticized, I want to respond either just with humor, or I want to be able to respond with compassion. And so one of the things I started saying to people, if they say something nasty to me, is I just go, you look like you need a hug. It's just like the funniest thing to say. I don't know why I said that. All right, so tool number 2, and this is actually where it really starts, is awareness. So you can't fix something that you don't know about, right? So if you flip people off, eventually you're aware of that, then you start to begin to change it. If you're aware of your thoughts, the way that your thinking is, then you can begin to change that. So for example, sometimes you'll wake up in the morning and you'll just be like, oh man, I'm just feeling really down today. And sometimes that's physiological. Sometimes the blood isn't, carrying the B12 or whatever you need to be carrying that day. Sometimes it's because of something you read the night before. And you know what? Sometimes it's because of the emotion of the world around you. We live in a connected world emotionally. Like if you walk up and you're talking to someone and all of a sudden you feel anxiety, the chances are that's coming from them, right? So we live in an emotionally connected world. And so awareness is actually one of the most important things, which is why I love meditation. You guys thought I was just going to start talking about meditation, but I talked about all the other stuff before. Because one of the best things about meditation is it teaches you to be aware of the thought process that's going on in your mind. So for example, I have a technique that I use. I call it checking myself at the door. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm going to meet someone like a client or maybe someone that I'm helping, or maybe I'm just going to grab lunch with a friend of mine. And I show up and I'm like at the door and I'm like, man, I feel good today. Life is good. It's all great, And then I sit down and I'm like, man, I just started feeling anxious. What's up with that? Well, guess what? That was not me. That's him. Okay, or it's the restaurant or whatever it is that's got some weird sort of like stuff happening in this spiritual space, and you know what? That's not me. Okay, so I could just quickly say, look, I'm not going to partner with that. I'm going to go back to the way that I was, and then I'm back the way that I was. But see, that starts with awareness. If you know where you're at, or if you know where you should be, you can begin to start to make some of those things change. Okay, now on to meditation. One of the fastest ways. Some of you came to my 2-day training back in January. It was called the Business Accelerator. And inside Business Accelerator, I actually taught one of my favorite breathing techniques. So there's a breathing technique that I use called box breathing, or it's a pranayama technique called box breathing. Now the truth is, I've probably tried 100 different breathing methods and breathing techniques. I'm very into the idea of breath work. Okay, but this breathing is nothing more than breathing in for 5 seconds, good deep belly breath, holding for 5 seconds, releasing over a period of 5 seconds and holding for 5 seconds. Don't take my word for it. Just go online and you'll find some good videos. There's a Navy SEAL that does a good video. I think his name is last name is Divine. Don't go there yet. Okay, wait till the show's over. Okay. Now, one of the things that I notice when I do breath work, like for example, if I just spend 5 minutes, like I did this morning, doing a normal sort of like 5-minute round of box breathing, by the time I'm done, I feel really good. And I might have showed up tired or anxious or fearful or busy. And if I just spend 5 minutes breathing, I actually feel really good. Well, the cool thing about breathing is, unlike your heart rate, for the most part, your heart rate is something you're not controlling. Now, there are some ways to control your heart rate, but I'm not going to go there. Let's just say your heart rate goes up and down based on the needs of your body in terms of blood. Your breathing, however, is a automatic process that you can affect. In other words, right now as you're watching me, you're breathing without thinking about it until I just mentioned it, and now you're thinking about it. Isn't that crazy how awareness works, right? So you're breathing and you're not thinking about it, and then all of a sudden you're taking control of your breath and you're thinking about it. Now, because breathing is an automatic but also a conscious process when you want it to be, it gives you actually a kind of a hack into some of the things that are automatically happening inside of your mind. So when you focus on breath for just a little while, you take your mind off of some things, you focus on one thing, your body begins to get more oxygen, you start to feel better, and then your mind begins to process things better, which is one of the reasons that I love breathing. So if I'm super stressed or if something big is getting ready to happen, you can bet, like you come backstage 10 minutes before one of my events, you can bet I'm probably back there doing some sort of approach to breathing to be able to hack into my mind, to be able to get it the way that I want it to be. Okay? I'm going to jump into the chat real quick, and then I'm going to come back to you. Yes, the Bible even says, take your thoughts captive. Captive and obedient to Christ. It says, be transformed by the renewing of your... Isn't that amazing? Even back in the old... in the ancient text, it says something like, don't be conformed, is Romans 12, 1 and 2, I think, Romans 12, 2. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So it actually says two things. Remember today, I started off today's show by showing you the world, how the world operates and how the world thinks. And my reason for saying that was don't be conformed to the world. You want to operate down at like 50 on a scale of 1,000? If you want to be very weak, well then read CNN and spend all your time watching like Fox News and be on Twitter a lot having stupid political debates, okay? Look, let me just say, this election is important, okay? Every election is important. There are people out there who are like this, if this person wins, it's the end of America. There's another group of people out there who are like, if this other person wins, it's the end of America. Well, I have news for you. It's not, okay? The end of America is the end of America, not November, all right? So in one sense, it's a very important election, don't get me wrong, okay? In another sense, it's 4 years, okay? And there's some great people coming behind, okay? So, and I'm talking to you right now. You know as well as I do, you're getting on board with, okay? Now, number 5, hopefully this is helpful for you, neuroscience, very good stuff, very good stuff. You must unlearn what, boy, isn't that true? Responsibility, awareness, meditation, breathing. Great. Angela's taking notes. T.D. Jakes says, can only change what you're willing to confront, can only confront what you're willing to consider, can only consider what you make. Man, he said it better than I did, man. Really good. Okay, number 5. All right, check it out. This is so easy. Number 5 is smiling. I don't actually know why this works. It has something to do with the muscles and stuff in your face. I kid you not. You want to feel good? Wake up. Just smile for a little while. If you want to add some laughing, it's amazing what can happen when you add a little laughing. Okay? Now, I want to tell you about. So I have to I'm already laughing at this thing. All right, I have to tell you about, I've got a prop here for you. So I'm in the car like a week and a half ago with my kids, And for some reason, I started talking about 80s sitcoms, Um, and nowadays they don't laugh track over shows. Like in the 80s, if you were watching sitcoms with me, like Cosby Show and stuff like that, they would laugh track. They would insert an audience laugh track into the show to tell you when to laugh. So I was telling my kids, man, the shows, they used to actually insert laugh tracks so that you could hear people laughing in the background. And my daughter knew what that was, but my younger kids were like, what? What was that? And so what I did was I went onto iTunes and I found a set of like 30 tracks called Hollywood laugh tracks, okay? And what I did was I just played them in the car for like 10 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. At the end of about 5 minutes, every single person in the car, there was no jokes. It wasn't like a comedian was talking. We were not watching anything. We were just listening to people laugh. Everybody was listening. All they were doing was listening, and everyone was cracking up. It was the strangest thing, and it was because of this. So here, I'm gonna play a couple of these. All right, this is it. Check it out. Just people laughing. I should just tell a joke. I should tell a joke and let it, ready? Oh, I missed it. All right, so this is like 30 3-second clips of people laughing, all right? So if you ever need, I mean, it's the dumbest, stupidest stuff, but if you ever just need to like a pick-me-up, play laugh tracks and smile, okay? All right, so I have another technique. I'm gonna erase this in a second and start again. I have another technique called the 30,000 foot. Here's what 30,000 foot does. The reason sometimes you're not feeling great and the reason sometimes that you're having a difficult time in your life or in your day is because you're thinking about things that are happening either right now or things that just happened, right? In other words, you're focusing on something that may be difficult, like, gosh, I can't believe I gotta put my taxes, pay the government this much money or whatever it is. The 30,000 foot is this. You fly up on your airplane in your mind and look at your life on a timeline. And when people do this, by the way, if you picture yourself above the timeline of your life, there's reasons for this I can't go into. People either view it as this way or this way. By the way, everybody does it one way or another, depending on the direction. It tells me a lot about exactly who you are. I won't go into that right now, okay? When you start to look at your timeline, go back to your earliest memories as a kid, look for some joyful moments when you were growing up, look for some times when you were playing football in college and you scored or high school and you scored a touchdown, and maybe you were playing tennis, or like maybe you played the flute, I don't know, we're in a show, you remember people clapping. Look through some positive moments and then look forward in your life at the things that you're excited about in the future. Sometimes understanding your life as a nice big timeline can start to help you be a little bit more positive about those things, okay? So I've got just a few more, and then we're gonna wrap up and I'm gonna take your questions. And some awesome comments in chat, thank you for those as well. Let's go back to the list, and gosh, I think I just ended at 6. So let's just go with 7, and if I'm off my numbers, you can fix it for me. Okay, number 7, some of you have heard my gratitude challenge. Here's one of the things I realized, man. One day my wife and I were sitting at the table, tough time money-wise, we're just going through a little bit of a struggle, and all of a sudden we just started saying, like, I remember I looked down and I'm like, I'm really thankful for this table. I had made a kitchen table. I'm really thankful for this table. And she's like, I'm just really thankful that and we started just saying thankful things, and we all of a sudden started feeling better. Okay, so gratitude. Number 8, compliments. Giving a compliment to somebody really, really makes you feel great. Let me give you an example. I go down to my bank. It's like 2 blocks away. It's the Chase Bank here in my city in California. The people that work behind that counter, man, I've known them for like 14 years. It's basically been my bank long before it was Chase. Okay, it was like Washington Mutual. So there's a woman back there named Sue Lee. There's Laura. I already know those folks. So if I just stop, I got the deposit going, and I just stop and say, hey, Sue Lee, listen, you've been here since the very beginning. I just want to say thank you for your hard work. Man, you do such a great job. That's it. You will see, if she doesn't have a mask on, which you will now, you'll see a person smile, you'll smile, and you'll walk out of that place and you'll be like, I feel pretty good about myself right now, okay? Just simply giving a simple compliment. My only thought on this, though, is like, not a creepy one, okay? So when I just said give a compliment, you know what I'm saying? Like, say the nice ones and don't be like, gosh, that that shirt fits you so tight and snug around the midsection, it just makes you look great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know the difference between like a creepy compliment and a real compliment, okay? So all I'm saying is sometimes people take this and be like, well, Ed told me just to go circle complimenting me. Wow, your bottom looks great. No, okay? Nice compliments, okay? And like your beautiful eyes, sometimes that's creepy. You know what I'm saying? So just go with like something that you know will really hit home for them. You know what? Every time I'm in here, you always have this big smile on your face. You just seem like a very happy person. I just want to thank you for your joy that you bring to the world. There's a nice one, okay? There's a nice one. You have pretty teeth. That's not. There's the difference. Those are. I'm just saying. Sometimes, man, you'll walk into like the mailboxes, et cetera, place. You're like, oh, I wish that guy didn't just say that. All right. So, not a creepy one. All right. Number 9. Learn something new. I'm gonna tell you, man. I love learning new things, and new things give you some positivity towards the future. So sometimes if you're not feeling good, go online. I'm obsessed right now with this website called The Great Courses. I don't know if you've been there or not. There's courses that are like $200, $300, $400, which is expensive for some of those courses, but you can get a $20 membership where you get them all for free, okay? Go in and learn how to draw. Go in and learn how to play the guitar. Go in and learn how to write calligraphy or something like that, okay? By the way, take my persuasion course. There's a good thing to learn. You're going to need that one time or another, and I figured I would need to get that in, okay? And then the last one, there's actually 2 of these. So I know I said 11. This is actually 10 and 11 are what I call the body hacks. All right, I don't have time to do the whole bit on this, but let me just say it this way. There is I'm going to pull this up actually. Hang on a second. There it is. There's a side hack into your brain, and it's actually using your body. Now, a lot of what happens in your body is coming from the way that you're thinking, but it's connected so that it can work in the opposite, okay? And I learned this, my first boy was like one day when he was like 6 years old. And you know, sometimes if you have kids, sometimes they just have like an attitude, you know? And so my boy was just laughing like, I think he said he was like 6 or 7. I think he said, "This is the worst day ever." I'm like, dude, you're 7. I'm like, you can't have a worst day ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, all the food is in there for you. You don't even have to work. You could just go back and sleep if you want to. We didn't even wake you up this morning. And like, everything's provided for you, you know? So you don't get a worst day ever. Now, if you're a dad and you do that lecture, you're right. Or you're a mom and you do that lecture, you're right, but that doesn't land. It's not like my son, who's in the middle of the worst day ever, is like, you know what, Dad, you're right. Everything is great. And then all of a sudden his day's better. Like, that's not the way persuasion works, okay? So I looked at my son and I said, well, how do you feel? And he said, well, I don't feel very good at all. I said, you ever seen somebody score a touchdown in a football game? And he said, yeah. I said, when they do that, do you ever look at the crowd? If it's a home team, do you ever look at the crowd? And he goes, yeah. Of course I look at the crowd because I take my kids to like bowl games and stuff like that. I said, what do the crowd do? He said, normally they stand up and jump in the air and they start, cheering like this. I said, well, do me a favor, stick your hands up in the air. So he stuck his hands up in the air. And I said, now start jumping. I said, start jumping. And then I said 3 times out loud, scream, I feel amazing. I feel amazing. I feel amazing. Okay. And he started jumping and saying, I feel amazing. And by the 3rd, I feel amazing, he was laughing and I was laughing. Now, why did that work? It's just, all it is using your body to recode the software program that's happening in your head. Some of you read 21 Day Miracle. It's available here, by the way, edrushbook.com. I'm going to screen share a section of this. I'm not going to read it to you. This isn't like a reading hour. But this is page 119. It's called Eliminate and Replace. So step 1, by the way, if you're familiar with the book, step 1 is always awareness and observation. Step 2 is eliminate and replace, okay? So I created a series of what I call backdoor brain hacks, all right? And one of those is this. See this right here? Stand, hold your 2 fists in the air like Rocky Balboa did after he knocked out Clubber Lang, or like you would if your team just won the championship. smile as big as you can, scream, I feel amazing 3 times at the top of your lungs, okay? And then I said, like, if you're reading this on a plane or in a public area, I get it. I was thinking about letting you go and wait until later, but no, just go ahead and do it right now. Stand there smiling like a champion, screaming, I feel amazing. Do it. The exercise probably works better that way, and you'll have the benefit of challenging and strengthening your inner warrior, okay? And then what I promise is you'll chuckle and then you'll feel amazing. But I have one called Rock Your Energy, which I like using music. But I have another one called the Gorilla, okay? So this is the only other one I'm gonna teach. This one is called the Gorilla. So let's say your mind, this says, keeps coming back to a conversation you had last week and it's still bothering you. What you do is you stand up like a gorilla. All right, now listen. This isn't like gender specific, okay? You're just gonna do a gorilla. I don't care what you are. It's just so you know, this is not like just a guy thing. That's all I'm saying, okay? So you're going to go and scream, my thoughts are mine, and I'm gonna do what I think I want. I'm going to think what I want. And as for that other thought, you're dismissed. Go away now. One final double gorilla bang, then grunt and eat a banana. All right, you don't have to do the banana part. So check it out. My thoughts are what I... So, I'm just telling you, I'm just saying, try it. It'll crack you up, okay? So, all that negative stuff, get out of here. I'm only gonna you start doing it, it is the funniest thing. Just try it, okay? For real, I'm serious. I'm gonna end the show in about 3 minutes. Before this, you stand up and you start gorilla. I'm gonna move back to my seat and take a couple questions, but you start to gorilla. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but and look, it's not you can do anything you want with your body. The point is, you start to do stuff like this, and your mind, all of a sudden, your mind's like, well, wait a second. I guess today's a good day. Okay, well, let's be all positive. I mean, for real, it's like recoding your software. Okay, so 1 through 6, then gratitude, compliment, learn something new. Oh man, this cracks me up. I tell you what, man, I guess I don't need the laugh track because I already laugh at my own stuff. Music, I didn't talk about music. That's another one on my list. Sometimes I'll just, you know, sometimes you just got to do that. All right, so I'm going to jump back into chat, and then we're going to wrap up today's show. By the way, next Tuesday, my man Zach Brittle's coming. Zach and I have known each other since we were in our 20s. We went to school together. Best-selling author, incredible marriage and family therapist, building a great business. He has a show with Vanity Fair. We're going to talk about how to deliver with 100% authenticity. And then on Thursday, I'm going to do a longer show on how to become a master persuader. Some of you read the beginnings of that in the weekly flight brief that I sent out yesterday. By the way, if you're not getting my weekly flight brief, you need to get your butt over to edrush.com and put your name and email in there. Everyone on this here, most of you are already on my email list, and I will treat your email well, and I'm going to send you great things. But typically every week I send something out called the weekly flight brief. Yesterday's was a bomb. I'm talking like content bomb. It was all my best persuasion resources. Most of them under 20 bucks. Most of them are books, and it was awesome. Okay, so jump into chat, and then we're going to wrap up for today. Man, there's some awesome comments. Thank you, Angela. Number 7, number 8. No creepy compliments. You do see that stuff though, don't you? I mean, you're out there and you're like, man, we're like after Me Too around here. You gotta be careful with that stuff. All right, I do a gratitude jar. I write one thing I'm grateful for on a colorful piece of paper and put it in the jar almost every day. The next year I pull out 1 note per day and see what was good. That's such a great idea. That is a great idea. And then you start to see it grow and you're like, wow, there's a lot to be thankful for. Man, Paul, are you ever right about that? I'm not kidding you. I never pass. You know the people that come and clean the bathrooms in the airports or in the restaurants? Look, I'm just saying, I can't imagine, you know, like, that's not a great job. You know what I mean? That's a hard job. I kid you not, I do not pass one of those people without stopping and just going, I just say it the same way. I go, hey, I just want to say thank you for the great work that you're doing in here. You're doing a great job. That's it, just like that. Another thing you can do, one of my habits is I over tip breakfast waiters and waitresses, breakfast staff. I worked as a server and a delivery boy and a cook in a greasy spoon diner, short order cook kind of thing. And I watched this woman who, when I showed up there, was 6 months pregnant. When I left and went back to school, she was 9 months pregnant. And guys would drink a cup of coffee, and she would fill it up 6 times, and they'd leave her a quarter as a tip. So what I started doing is I'd go get breakfast. Your breakfast sometimes, like the bill's like $11. And so sometimes I would take $11 breakfast and leave a $20 tip right there. Because think about it. You go to dinner, it's $150, you're going to leave like a $30 tip. But breakfast, they do just as much work, and they get like $1 or $2, like $11. If you give them 20%, you're going to give them like, what, $2.20? So sometimes I'll drop a 20 on there, and that will make someone's day. All right? It's really good, Paul. Thank you. Good stuff. Let's see. What did I miss here? Hang on a second. TED Talk resource. Very good. Very good. Yeah, he's right about that. Cashiers, shelf stockers, bathrooms. We teach kids in the academy to keep success. This is really good. To journal their daily wins. It's such a great idea. In bathrooms, not on bathrooms. And just do it in the bathroom you go into, not the other one. See, compliment, creepy. So, I mean, there's like a difference there. That's the line. And it's bloody hard work to wait tables. I didn't laugh. That's great. Man. I tried out to do that job, Gina. I didn't. I think I might have failed the physiology part of that test. Thank the cashier yesterday. She shared so much joy through her mask. Wonderful energy. All right. So listen, if nothing else, you should feel better. I mean, you've been watching, hanging out here on the show for an hour or less. I don't know how long you've been here, but you should probably feel better. Okay. So if you feel better, I have a couple of ideas for you. There's a share button down there. Tell everybody about it, will you? Honestly, people need to see this kind of stuff online right now. There's just so much of everything else. So click the share button. It's super easy. Just send it someplace to your favorite socials. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button. It's actually right here, and there's a little bell next to it. If you haven't hit that, YouTube hides these things all over the place. So all that does is it brings it to the front of your feed, and oftentimes we'll just send you a little email when we go live. Okay, we're live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 Eastern. I feel better. I love it. Thank you, Diana. You bring joy into the world as well, Diana. So thank you for your amazing work that you're doing in the world. All right, so listen. The world's a great place, but you know what it needs? The world needs you. The world needs your story or your message or your product or your service. And let me just be really clear about this. God doesn't have a plan B. He doesn't have a backup plan to you. You are the plan, okay? So go get your butt to where it needs to be. And you're not going to do that by dwelling on what's negative. So it would be a great time to get off of social media. It would be a great time to get into some medium where you can begin to share your content or to continue to share your content, or to change the world through growing great vegetables, or to change the world through helping people with relationships, or to change the world by helping their nonprofit, or to change the world through helping their business. Okay? So we're going to wrap up today's show. Let me just tell you, you're going to do it. We're going to do it. Choo, man. We're going to do it. I can't wait, dude. It's going to be awesome. You imagine what life's going to be like when you get criticized and then you just laugh. Okay? All right, so that's it. That's it for today's show. I'll see you on Tuesday's going to be a lot of fun. Zach is he's a college buddy of mine, but not in the way that you think, not like college drinking buddy kind of guy. He's a pretty funny guy. And he actually has a couple stories he's probably going to want to tell. I might cut him off. All right, so I'll see you next week. Be amazing. I'll talk to you soon.